All right, great. All right, it's a little bit after 6, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Thanks for joining us. We've got a small online contingent and a couple people in person as well. Um, so my name is Brett Thorn. I'm the Interim Deputy Director of Planning and Sustainable Transportation for Baltimore City DOT, joined by my colleague Scott Fox and a couple of um, members of our community engagement team. So just want to kind of run through a little bit about what we're planning to do for the Charm City Circulator Green route, as well as a little change on the Orange route as well. And then I think when we're done, we can kind of open it up for question and answer or discussion. Um, so I'll just go ahead and jump right into the presentation. Kind of covered the agenda. Again, welcome. We're gonna kind of walk through what we're planning for the green and orange route on the Charm City Circulator, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So just to start, a little bit of background kind of about how we arrived where we're at now. This whole plan sort of started in 2021 and 2022 with the development of the Transit Development Plan, or TDP. We did a couple of public meetings during that process to kind of gauge rider satisfaction with the Charm City Circulator service, see what kind of new destinations people want to go to. We did a lot of analysis of ridership data and census data about job locations and housing developments, new developments that are planned. Worked a lot with other agencies such as the Housing Authority of Baltimore City, the Planning Department, Department of Housing and Community Development, to kind of get a sense of what we should be thinking about as we're thinking about the Charm City Circulator's future, and kind of what the areas are that we should be thinking about serving. You know, that process wrapped up in about 2022. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but between 2022 and 2024, we had a new operator take over operations of the Charm City Circulator. They needed to get onboarded. We also ran into some maintenance challenges with the buses. So we sort of pushed the implementation of some of these transit development plan recommendations to 2024, which is when we started kind of implementation. So you guys may be familiar with the Cherry route on the Charm City Circulator. That was a new development that came out of the TDP. And then there was an adjustment that was made to the Purple route as well last year. So that's kind of a little bit of the background about how we got here. It started with the TDP about 3 years ago. And we've sort of worked our way to this present moment where we're now prepared to do the changes on the green and the orange route. So why now? Again, I mentioned this, but this Charm City Circulator changed operators in early 2023. Bringing in a new operator to run this service, we needed time to get them on board and get them familiar with the service and give them time to staff up. And I should point out that Jajit here is actually from the operator Transdev. They've been doing a great job helping us kind of run the service. We last year again implemented the Cherry route and the changes on the Purple. Pretty much as soon as those recommendations went into effect, Scott and I began kind of re-examining the recommendations related to the green route and the orange route to see if they still made sense, if there were changes that needed to be made. And so since about this time last year, we've sort of been trying to get the ball moving on the green and orange route changes. So this map just shows the biggest change that we're talking about here tonight is on the green route. There's a little bit smaller thing that's proposed for the orange route that we'll get into, but this map kind of shows the current green route, which is that sort of light green shade, and then the dotted line, darker green, is the proposed new route. And some of the kind of goals of this project, as you can see here, are improving access to transit. So there's some spans of Orleans Street, kind of right in here, that are not currently served by either the Charm City Circulator or MTA bus service. And there's some public housing developments around here. There's also a new grocery store that's planned for this area. So there's some new development happening along here. So we're excited to be able to add service along Orleans, and then kind of just south of where we are right now, the span of North Broadway also does not have any MTA or Charm City Circulator bus service. So we're kind of expanding transit service to some areas that are a little bit underserved in that regard. Quality of life kind of ties in with that, providing additional transit service. Mobility is a big one, connecting neighborhoods with job centers. One thing that we heard during the transit development plan process and some of the feedback that we got is that the current green route is a very indirect connection between kind of the Johns Hopkins Hospital campus and downtown and some of the areas in between. It kind of goes south and then ultimately ends up going north. And the idea here is to provide a little bit more of a direct connection between Hopkins and the downtown area. And the other thing, and Scott's going to get into this in just a few minutes, but efficiency is the other kind of part of this. The green route has historically been the lowest ridership route on the circulator in the circulator system. And so we're kind of looking at ways that we can improve the ridership by kind of adjusting some of the destinations served here. So access, again, kind of highlighted this, but we're bringing transit service, fixed route bus service to these areas shown here in the white circles. Each of these lines on this map represents a different MTA fixed route bus service. So these areas you can see do not have any transit service to them. And so, some of the destinations that are served, you can see here, Baltimore Social Services, City Hall. I mentioned the grocery store that's incoming. That's the Lidl that's on its way. Johns Hopkins Hospital. There's the subway connections. And then some of the downtown kind of destinations like Pier 5 and Port Discovery. Quality of life and mobility. I mentioned this a minute ago, but connecting people to jobs. More than 10% of Baltimore City residents' jobs are actually in census tracts that are along the green route. That's according to Labor Department statistics. Also, we're increasing access to transit service for households that do not have access to a vehicle. According to census data, about 30% of households do not have access to a vehicle within the neighborhoods that are now served by the newly updated green route. So those are just a couple of the kind of ideas of sort of why and how this came about. And I'm going to kick it over to Scott Fox, our Transit Services Administrator, to kind of walk through the rest of the presentation.
Hi. So looking at ridership on the Charm City Circulator in 2025, you see that purple and orange have had most of our riders, about 500,000 purple riders, about 300,000 orange riders. And we provide most of our service that we run are on purple and orange. They run 10 of the 17 buses that run regularly are on purple and orange. Then the other 7 buses we run currently, 3 are devoted to the cherry, 3 are devoted to the green, and 1 is devoted to the banner. And you can see that the banner and the green have about the same amount of ridership, though the banner only has 1 bus running on it and the green has 3 buses running on it. And as a result, on the right, you can see with the table that for every hour of service that we're running, the green has by far the lowest number of passengers, only 7 passengers, while purple has 30, orange is 21, cherry and banner have about 13. And the cherry's been doing very well for only being in service for just over a year. So part of this change is we're hoping to gain more ridership by serving new areas that currently don't have transit and creating new bus stops at these locations in the Broadway in East Baltimore Midway area, at Broadway and Ellsworth, Broadway and Federal, Harford Heights Elementary, Harford and Curtin, and North and Caroline. And then over by Orleans Street in Old Town, there'll be new bus stops at Gay in Front, Orleans and Forest, and Orleans and Central. And in most of these locations I just described, these would be direct bus stops going in both directions. Other than Gay in Front, it would be going northbound on Gay, southbound on Hill and nearby. In order to have the green route run as frequently and having it be revenue neutral, having the same number of buses run the same amount of service without increasing our budget, the green will have to no longer serve this area along Fleet and Broadway around Fells Point, and it's changing its route. In this map, you can see here the light green is the current green route, the dark green is the proposed green route, and then the orange is our current orange route. And then on the southern end there, you can see the additional orange service that we are proposing to serve Maritime Park. And then the circles on the screen are all of our current stops. So the stops on the light green that are not connected to another line right now would no longer be served. Specifically, particularly those stops in the red square in the middle of the screen. However, while these stops will lose service, all of these stops are within a quarter mile of alternative Charm City Circulator service. Well, it will be on the new version of the green route or on the orange route. And these stops have low ridership generally. These stops have been averaging about 9 boardings per day compared to 29 for an average Charm City Circulator stop across our system. And so that's why we feel that we can move forward with this adjustment. Also, these stops along Broadway and Fleet that are losing service, the green route stops are still less than a mile away, the nearest green route stops that will replace them. As I briefly mentioned earlier, to help accommodate the loss of the connection on the green route to the Harbor Connector and to provide greater service along Caroline Street with the green route moving away from that area, the orange route will be doing its same route but taking a detour when it travels down Fleet onto Caroline to serve the Maritime Park stop by the Harbor Connector route, by the Maritime Park Harbor Connector 1 service. And the orange route would run with the same frequency as it does now, every 10 minutes, stopping at Maritime Park as well, and running north-south on Caroline Street up to Lombard to continue its regular service. Previously, we had planned to make these changes in the green route that were recommended by the TDP, the Transit Development Plan, at the same time as we were making the changes recommended by the orange route. And for those of us in the room, we have a poster that shows what was proposed by the Transit Development Plan. And due to construction and engineering issues, we were unable to make the orange route changes right now or try to adopt the recommendations from them. And we are hoping to make those adjustments next year in 2026. But in the meantime, we're hoping that the orange route will serve Maritime Park and continue its regular route. The other parts of the Transit Development Plan, just wanted to add, were adopted last year on the purple and cherry. So here's where we're at. The Transit Development Plan took place in 2022. Around as Brett had said, in 2023-24, we adjusted to having a new contractor, TransDev, successfully operate the Charm City Circulator. For the past year, we've been reviewing and making sure that the transit development plan still worked and all of the routes were able to successfully have bus service that can run frequently and get to as many transit dependent riders as possible. And now we're at the phase of marketing and outreach where we're talking to everyone about this and seeing how we can best implement this adjustment and improvement. And next month, we're hoping to start installing signs along the new corridor. And our proposed launch date of the new green route service and new orange service to Maritime Park would be December 7th right now. We pending any sort of complications, but we are proposing that it would be on December 7th. You can share your feedback by leaving a comment on the Streets of Baltimore's open comment forum or the DOT Charm City Circulator page. You can contact the project team. Our community liaisons in these districts are Monet Easley Small, Jacob Zabawa, and Troy Munson in districts 1, 11, 12, and 13, or email me, Scott Fox, the project manager. Any questions?
So you got 2 questions in the chat.
Okay.
So the first question is, deviations are unpleasant. Did you look into whether the deviation at Hopkins is really necessary?
Do you think he means the deviation off of Broadway?
I have a similar question. It's the way the route has several turns around there, and it makes it a longer path than the direct route between Inner Harbor and
I'm
North
gonna
Avenue.
unmute Jeff and let him explain his
Okay.
question.
Okay.
All right, yeah. So the part where the bus turns from Orleans Street to Broadway.
Oh, I can turn my speaker on. Jeff, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, so the part where the new route turns from Orleans, goes from Orleans to Broadway, there's that deviation through the Hopkins Medical Campus. Instead of having that deviation, why doesn't it just turn left directly from Orleans straight onto Broadway to make it run faster?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff, and that's something that we have looked at internally. The initial proposal in the transit development plan was for the bus to just turn left onto, is it Washington that's northbound? Yeah.
It looks like it's Broadway.
And, or well, it was gonna go further down to Washington and
Gotcha.
turn left. And the idea there was, first of all, getting the service just a little bit further east into the community there and having just expanding the access there, and then also getting a little bit more into the heart of the Hopkins campus. We did kind of examine the benefits of more directly connecting with the subway, the metro stop that's there on Broadway. But I think the stop that we're proposing is still like a block or half a block away from that subway stop. So the idea, I guess, to answer your question, was just to get a little bit further, deeper, more east into the community, and then also to kind of run through the heart of the Hopkins campus there. And the reason that it kind of does the jog onto south on Broadway and then onto Fayette and then north is because the direct left turn from Orleans onto Washington is prohibited.
Okay. Thank you.
But that is the kind of thing that we're going to be kind of monitoring as this gets implemented, and it's something that we're definitely thinking about. It's a good question and one that we've considered too.
Okay, thank you.
And was that kind of same question? Yeah.
Got a question over here. So I saw that too. I mean, it's clear that that would increase ridership, right? And you're going further east into, like you brought up earlier, I mean, less car centric. I mean, if you were just on Broadway, that it wouldn't be a direct like one-to-one to just a subway, but other routes are covering directly. If you went left on Broadway, immediately other routes are covering that. So instead going down to Fayette and then going back north again, it gives you a potential wider pool of people. So I can understand that. It had to be pretty difficult. And it had to be quite strange to find that original route that had been there forever was not catching on at all. You know, you're talking about incredible developments happening down there, and it never really caught on at all. It's very strange to me, you know. But yeah, I think you know, great adaptation. I think.
Yeah.
So.
I'm surprised by how low the ridership has been on the green route. Frankly, it's just always been by far the lowest in the system. I suspect that maybe part of it is that it is so indirect that, you know, if you're going from Hopkins, I mean, I guess if you're going from Hopkins to Fells Point, that's, you know, a direct connection. But from the starting point at Hopkins and then the end point downtown, you're doing a very circuitous kind of trip. And, you know, the Orange route, I think, as a counterpoint, has much, much higher ridership. That's like the second highest route in the system. And that's just kind of a straight shot, more or less, on Fleet and Lombard. So between Fells area and downtown. But yeah, I'm surprised by that.
So Jeff had another question.
Mm-hmm.
He said, can you explain why the graph shows the banner route being lowest rather than the green?
That the banner has the lowest amount of riders over the first 9 months of 2025. The green has the lowest number of people on average on the bus. Basically, is kind of, we have 3 buses a day running on the green, 1 bus a day running on the banner, and yet the banner has almost as many riders as the green.
And so the chart on the right is showing riders per revenue hour, which is basically saying riders per bus. And the green has 3 buses assigned to it, whereas the banner only has 1. And so that's kind of why in the bar graph, the green actually technically has a higher number of riders, but if you look at it on a per bus basis, it is by far the lowest.
And he said, considering MTA uses colors for its CityLink service, have you considered renaming the green, orange, and purple to non-color names to be like the banner and cherry, might reduce confusion for riders?
You guys were ahead first, weren't you?
Yes, we were first.
Yeah, so MTA needs to change their system. No, we have, I'm just joking about MTA changing their system. We have not talked really about that, about changing it. We hear that every now and then, that it gets a little confusing. And actually, the first time I ever stepped foot on a Circulator bus, it was the orange route, and I thought I was getting on the CityLink orange when I first moved to Baltimore. So I have been victim to that confusion. We have not talked seriously about that, but if it's something that keeps coming up, then it might be something that we need to look at more seriously.
I'm curious.
Quick question more for the orange route. With the extension to Harbor Point, would there be consideration to having buses lay over there as opposed to on Marketplace? Now I just saw the new signs on Marketplace, but it's weird to me why the buses kind of stop in the middle of the route going west.
So one factor with the orange route is a lot of cars park there, so it is very difficult for a bus to lay over there. But that is a good opportunity if we can make sure that we have cars stop parking illegally there. We have a really bad issue with that.
And you're the DOTs, you would have control over the roads to change the
Yes.
fence.
And first of all, that's a great observation. I get extremely frustrated when I'm on the orange route and it stops at Marketplace for like 10 minutes, and it's like I'm trying to get somewhere. So on that map of the orange route, keeping in mind that's not what's going to get implemented in the short term, because like Scott mentioned, we have some engineering stuff that we have to work through. The ultimate plan is for when the route starts serving Harbor Point, that the layover would move to Harbor Point. Because as you observed, the Marketplace layover is not very useful for riders.
That's on your radar.
Yes, yeah. B&O stop works great because that's at the far west end of the route, and they can lay over there. But doing it in the middle has been a pain point.
How tough has it been to continue to have to, not have to, but, you guys have stretched, like we mentioned, like, out of the 17 vehicles, you have, the Purple's gotten the lion's share of them, naturally because of how popular it is, but how difficult has it been to kind of gauge that interest, continually have to go further north, not have to, but, add that, and then, with that being fed into, how challenging is that with, again, the increased population that you're continuing to put on Purple? And that was implemented, right? That sort of dotted line at the top there, that's implemented now, right?
Yes, that's been implemented. It's the only thing, the orange has not been implemented.
Right.
Yeah.
So part of the deal with the Purple, previously the Purple had 6 buses assigned to it. Because we ended up kind of truncating the southern portion of the Purple, and that's now served more or less by the Cherry. We were able to take 1 bus off of the Purple and assign that actually to the Cherry route. So it's not easy to kind of make those decisions, because it would be nice to keep that 6 bus on the Purple and just keep it super high frequency. But there's like the community in Cherry Hill. I think the rate of households without a vehicle is like close to 40% or something. And so the more we can do to provide transit service and kind of prioritize those like high need transit areas, the better.
Understood.
I can bring up a question. This was I'm the customer service and marketing manager for Charm City Circulator. So I deal with the people directly. They reach out to me regarding any requests or concerns or questions. I had received this question a couple of weeks ago from one of the concerned resident of the East Baltimore. They said that their housing community lies on Broadway, and only the closest parking spot for them is on street parking on Broadway. So they were concerned about those street parkings being taken away from them if the service run up on Broadway all the way to Manhattan. So if you guys want to address that.
Yeah. So on Broadway, we are estimating on Broadway itself, I think we're estimating the removal total of 14 parking spaces, and it's not ideal. Let's say for Broadway and Federal is the intersection where I think we will have to remove the most parking spaces. We'll have to remove 8 parking spaces to put in bus stops, but at the same time, there are more vacant units on Broadway than the number of parking spots. So it is not like there's no parking available on that street, but it is frustrating. We understand for people who live there that they may not be able to park in front of their space anymore.
And also, we just DOT doesn't actually control the parking spaces. So any changes that we make to parking supply, we have to go through the parking authority and get their approval. And so we've coordinated with them, and they've kind of looked at the parking supply and capacity and all of that, and they've signed off on what we're proposing.
So Jeff had another question. Considering that the end of the green route will be loops, where will your routes terminals be? Example, where will the bus dwell?
While I think we're still finalizing that, but I think the bus would probably dwell towards the north end of the route by by Hartford Heights Elementary and the McDonald's on Broadway, and probably on the southern end around the northern part of downtown, like probably on Hillen Street or Falls Way, because I think like as it at the you want termini kind of like at the north and south end, and it's a little harder for the bus to lay over, let's say, at our real south end of Pratt Street, but it would be probably at the closer to like the northern part of downtown.
Question that's kind of specific to a couple spots here, but also maybe the system as a whole. With adding new stops on Orleans Street and Broadway, has there been a look at improving the pedestrian environment on those streets, like especially Orleans? And just thinking of improving the bus stops overall, like the green bus stops going northbound on President Street, just kind of overlap with the bike lane there with no clear indication of who owns that space, basically. So has there been a look at the new bus stops or the bus stops as a whole?
So on Broadway, we are talking with DHCD a little bit about maybe some opportunities to partner on some like improvements in the Broadway areas, because this route borders an impact investment area. So DHCD is very invested in that area. So we're kind of talking with them about maybe if there's some opportunities to do some sort of placemaking stuff with some of these bus stops. On Orleans, we have not really been looking at improving the pedestrian environment as part of the bus stop work.
I think DOT's Safe Streets for All program might be launching something with Orleans possibly in the future, but not connected as much. But we do kind of collaborate, and they like take into our bus stops in mind. And then also similarly, a project that is ongoing, the Washington Street Bikeway, we've been coordinating the bus stop placement with that.
Real quick, when you think new bus stops created, that's a spot where there was no bus stop, or
yeah, not so. All of these stops are the new green route stops, but particularly in that box in this slide here are except for the stops on North Avenue, except for that stop on North Avenue, these are completely new bus stops.
Okay, yeah, exactly. Like North Carolina.
Yeah.
New bus stop there. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just wondering.
Well, I'm sorry, but I did have questions to Bonnie earlier today. And I was a part of this process in the very beginning, and I really don't like this configuration. And I was really concerned by the fact that it doesn't connect communities to, at least I didn't see a grocery store, but we had an opportunity to. We talk about some of these neighborhoods, like if we went straight down that Central or Carolina Central, you could go to the Whole Foods. But this seems to be very jagged and cuts us off from different things. It just takes us to the courthouse. And I kept thinking like, well, yeah, but we say these communities, we go to the courthouse and not to the grocery store. I don't see where the benefits are with this new configuration.
Yeah, so first of all, I was involved in the TDP development as well, and we did look very closely at opportunities to connect to grocery stores. I will tell you that in was it the Somerset?
Yes.
The Lidl, there's a grocery store
Plan
there. Yeah. Not really yet, but we did talk about trying to connect to the Whole Foods. That starts to open up a can of worms of like budget and frequency of the service, because you know, if you're diverting all the way down there, it just, you're needing to add time into the route. And then rather than like a 20-minute service, you're looking at like every 40 minutes or something. And we want to keep this like kind of high frequency. So that was kind of the thinking there. We are hopeful that that needle opens up. But yeah, we're
This is problematic. So I'm going to reach out to my state reps because this is kind of.
I mean, to the east, not to, I mean, yeah, there's no grocery store, on this road, but there's well, that's not really close. It's within what, half a mile of the Northeast Market, that East Bumper out there on the east side of Hopkins campus, hospital campus at least. It's like that is, it's not exactly, you know, there, but it's within half a mile, which isn't right there, but it is half a mile, that eastern wing that goes east of Hopkins. It is, yeah, 3 blocks of Northeast Market. That's the closest thing.
Yeah, I live in Northeast Market.
Gotcha.
It's not, yeah, it's not beneficial.
Okay, Jeff had one more statement. He said, thanks. Would love if you could avoid mid-route dwell points if possible, like you have on the orange.
Yes, we're trying to avoid that with this green route. That's definitely something we are trying to not do.
I take the orange route consistently and it drives me insane. So yeah.
So you did right, you did route well.
Yeah. So like on the orange route, if you're familiar, I guess basically in transit planning, ideally you want the bus to dwell or lay over so that the driver can like have a bathroom break or whatever. On like the far ends of the route, you don't want it to be in the middle because theoretically people are, you know, traveling in the middle. And right now, like the orange route, the dwell or layover point is kind of right in the middle of the route, and it's super frustrating. If you're trying to get through downtown and then, you know, the bus stops and the driver says, "I'll be back in 5 minutes." I'm trying to get to work or whatever.
It's also challenging if you're trying to get on the bus there and you don't know when the bus is going to
Right.
leave.
Yeah. You're like, how long have you been sitting
watch
here?
Is the brown going to be faster? Is the circulator
That
going
could
to be
be
faster?
Yeah.
Discussion.
We're
Makes it challenging.
really trying to fix that. Jajit can probably attest. He gets frustrated emails from us sometimes.
Yeah, we recently installed those new signs on the marketplace so that the buses can actually take the layover inside rather than blocking the bus lane also, which has been an issue. But actually, when you brought up about potentially putting the layover at Maritime Park, if you're going to do that detour, that was a great suggestion, I would say. The only problem I will see with that is because that is a temporary solution, because next year orange is going to change. So we can definitely discuss that and see if you're going to implement that as a temporary measure to put the layover there. We'll discuss it.
I think the layover would be though with a permanent orange in that area by Harbor Point. I think is what we're planning.
It would be on the east end of the route rather than in the middle. If there's no more questions, I mean, Scott and I and Jajit, we can all hang out here a little bit and answer kind of one-on-one if we want to chat, but that was all we had to present.
I support moving the orange route dwelling points to the Harbor Point terminus.
Thank you, Jeff.
This central, yes.
Caroline.
Caroline.
Yeah, so right now the bus is traveling eastbound on Fleet and it just turns left and starts going up Caroline. So with this new diversion, keep service going to Maritime Park, it's just going to turn right on Fleet go down, do that loop through Maritime Park, and then head back up northbound on Carroll.
We'll go this way.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And another thing I believe that we didn't get a lot of questions, but I do believe it's worth highlighting. Is the way the green road is not going to turn on Baltimore Street anymore. It's actually going to go down the track, which are wider streets, safer for the buses, and it's going to help people connect the Orange Route in downtown rather than all the way down in Felsburg.
Yes, a very easy connection at a central part. You're absolutely right.
And then plus from there, the Orange Route can also assist people to go down to the grocery store, which is the whole food market for time while they figure out the Orange Route from the street.
Yeah, very quick going from the National Aquarium stop to the Fleet Street stop on Pratt. If you ride the green from
And then the green comes back up Broadway.
Yes.
Is there any expectation for an increase in vehicles in the near future? I know there's a cap there, there's a captain up there, but is there a plan
So
in the
like
future?
increase to the fleet overall.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are actually exciting. We're expecting delivery of 8 new buses in December, which is I think the first new buses that are added to the fleet in like 6 years. So we'll probably retire some of the older vehicles when the new ones get delivered, but I think it will still be a net increase to the overall fleet. And that's going to help with reliability of the service because new buses don't break down as often as 15-year-old buses.
Jeff had another statement. Other cities have the main transit agency run its free Circulator service. Why does Baltimore City contract to a separate company for it leads to fragmentation?
So that's a good question. A couple things. MTA actually also contracts with Transdev for some of its services, like the mobility service. I think is something that Transdev runs. The Circulator is actually more or less a branch of MTA, or it is very heavily supported by MTA. It's MTA, the Maryland Transit Administration, has a program called the Locally Operated Transit Systems, where they basically support local jurisdictions to run their own service kind of with a little bit more local control than what the MTA routes would be. And I think the benefit to Baltimore is that we can be a little bit more nimble and respond to changes in the city and housing development patterns and demographic patterns and things like that a little bit easier than if it was like a completely state-run thing. We'd have to request that the state look at adding a new route or something.
And just last question, as far as like how the green route would run all the way down. But I guess this wasn't utilized as much, and that's kind of what got that thought process going. Any reason why you would think there may be utilized more, but
so like why the existing kind of southern portion of the green? Yeah. So in some of the slides, we mentioned that I think those stops on Broadway that kind of go south into Fells Point, they average about 9 boardings per day. 29 is about the average for like an average Circulator stop. I think maybe it's just the lack of directness between the beginning of the green route and the kind of where it ends in downtown right now. The green route has just never been like a very high performing in terms of ridership route. So is it that? Is it that there's a lot of vehicle ownership in that area?
I would say I've also ridden it a couple of times at rush hour, and it's not only indirect, but it also gets congested with traffic, and the bus just has to sit in the traffic. So for a route that already takes a little while to get around without traffic, that just makes it even slower.
A lot of our transit development plan, I think, is taking the buses off President Street, which is a very slow moving street. At least parts of President Street down there.
Well, if there aren't any more questions, or if people want to talk one-on-one or anything, we can kind of wrap up. But appreciate everybody coming out. And if you have questions, do you want to maybe bring up the slide that has your contact information?
Yeah, sure.
Case.
Yeah.
Definitely reach out to us, and we'll be here for another several minutes. So happy to talk more about this. But
And-
appreciate y'all coming out.
And anyone who came in late, the presentation will be on the Streets of Baltimore page. What's the date? Wednesday. So by Friday, it should be Friday afternoon, it should be posted
Mm-hmm.
on the streetsofbaltimore.com page.
And there's some.
Community engagement business cards wanted to do as well.
And there's a flyer also that has information and our contact information about this project.
And just last question, when what route it's taken is being in consideration, what type of things you all consider factors
Like where the route should go and all
Yeah.
that. So
landmarks and stuff?
yeah, it's like amenities, housing, residential development patterns, socio-demographic things like I think the stat was 30% of the houses newly served by the green route, according to census data, don't have access to a vehicle. Like that's, a good indicator that somebody might be dependent on transit. So we look at that kind of thing. We do look at ridership of the existing routes to kind of help make that determination too. And again, kind of across the board, the green has been low performing.
One of the main reasons behind it was to kind of kick out that southern route of the green route.
Yeah, I think we heard during the TVP process a desire to bring service further north, like up Broadway, because they don't have any transit access or transit service right now in that span of Broadway. So that was one thing we heard, and having it go that far north and go that far south and connect to downtown and serve, Hopkins, it kind of goes right through there. The amount of time that it would take to run that route would really increase what we call the cycle time, or the time that it takes to do the full route, in which case, is somebody going to get on the bus if it only comes once every, 40 minutes? So that's it's a little bit of like a give and take. If you want to go really far north, then you got to think about, where can we cut? So.
You've got alignment now. It's noticeable. I mean, I think the Ellisville Main Street line is interesting because, of course, you've got the library, you've got a high school connection. You've got, again, like I said, Northeast Market, Blacks and Whites Museum up to the north edge, the courthouse. It's a collection of things. I think it's more valuable than the current south existence, where it just kind of went all the way down. Apparently, people didn't attach to that, weren't interested in running all the way down west. So where else would you go?
Mm-hmm.
I think having the library attached to it is beneficial. I think having alongside Dunbar's helpful. I think again, like I mentioned before, I think those things are. It's a good adaptation. We don't know what the next adaptation is going to be, but it's a good adaptation in comparison to where it was previously.
Yes, and
that's
I think
all. That's all I'm saying.
and I think this is an area in East Baltimore Midway is an impact investment area where the city is trying to focus intention on making investment grow in this area, and part of what will make this area attractive. It's a difficult thing, whether you put in the transit first in an area that has the amenities, or sometimes you want to put transit in areas that have people who would use it and would help the area grow by having better transit access.
Yeah, and I would just like to say, I think it could have been better.
Mm-hmm.
I really think living at Hopkins, too many people want to run through or connect to Hopkins. We have a lot of buses that already service that area. We didn't necessarily need a free bus to service that area at this point in time. And I'll talk to you all afterwards, because that whole Washington Street, she forgot to tell you all that after we was there. That whole Washington Street alignment with the new traffic pattern Just seems to be a lot of more congestion. That's what we added, that we don't necessarily in the neighborhood.
With the cycle track. Yeah.
Correct.
Thank you, everyone, for coming and attending. We appreciate it.
Have a good one.
Thanks. So, she wants to send her